Hi folks, today's video is a review of the Field Notes 5e Monster and Encounter Journals. Field Notes sent us over this for review, and right off of the bat, you get two notebooks in the little pack. Each of these are, I think, $16.95, so for about $17 US. Like all of the Field Notes, it has a nice, good quality paper that holds up to most pens, holds up really well for pencil, and erases pretty well. I do like it continues with the gold-ish yellow text, so that the printed text kind of provides this nice contrast against a pen or a pencil. You can clearly see the info that you wrote against what is printed on the page. You know, because it is the cardboard cover, these are not going to be super, super durable. I like the color. It seemed initially like an odd color, but after seeing, okay, the player notebook is this nice red, but the dungeon notebook, Dungeon Master or Game Master, is this purple. Like, they actually go together really well, and then the red kind of is this nice standout, but still kind of is in, like, it creates a nice palette. I like that. And these are definitely geared for the Dungeon Master, and they are also 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons kind of in mind, but I think you could use them for other systems. They're just going to be optimal for 5th edition. What do you get inside of this? There are 15 encounter pages and 15 monster pages, and these are 2-page spreads. On the inside of the front and back cover, there is some like basic info. You've got a space to write contact info if you lose it, but then also there are a number of random tables that you can roll, either for encounters or for monsters. All of the spreads for the encounters and for the monsters are the same. So you get 15 duplicate encounter spreads and 15 duplicate monster spreads. So all told, with the 2-pack, that allows for 30 encounters and 30 monsters. I think this is actually my favorite of the Field Notes notebooks because it seems to be the most versatile. The thing that I ran into with both the player and the Dungeon Master is there's limited space because they are fairly thin. If you're trying to keep an entire campaign's worth of notes in it, unless you're somebody who takes very minimal notes, you're probably going to run out of room. However, this is exactly what I want in like an encounter book, because this feels like something that you can very easily come up with a whole bunch of different encounters and put them into this book, and then have this in your bag, especially if you're somebody who travels to Game Master, or have this tucked in with your Game Master supplies at home. And if you need a encounter, you can pull this out, whether it's organizing encounters for a pre-written module, whether it's organizing encounters for a whole campaign, or just having a bunch of random encounters you can have. Okay, we're traveling and, we have more time in this session than I anticipated. Let's throw in a random traveling encounter. The other thing I really, really like is that the encounters are not specifically combat. So on each of the encounter spreads, up at the top, there's a little bubble you can fill in to be either combat, roleplay, or exploration. And that's something I really appreciate. And then all of the wording is geared towards a little bit more general. So you could do it for a whole bunch of combat encounters, but you can also have roleplay and exploration encounters. It provides enough guidance to kind of help you build those encounters while still being vague enough to apply to a wide variety of encounters, if that makes sense. I like that there's an area that you can add a visual, so if it is a combat encounter, you can kind of draw in a map, and it's a nice little dot grid that you can easily turn into an actual grid, or you can just use that space for additional notes if you want, or a sketch of like maybe the person that they're going to be role-playing with. There's also a spot for treasure and rewards. It's just a very well laid out, like nice little 2-page spread. And at the beginning of the encounter section, there is a page that has the encounter building tips. Now, a number of these tips are very similar to what is in the Dungeon Master Guide, but there are a couple of others in here that I don't remember being in the DMG. So they may have been in there and I just missed them. But it's a lot of advice for not only creating the encounter, but then also describing the encounter. And I like that in this section, it kind of emphasizes, you're going to be improvising in your game. You can't plan for everything that your characters are going to come up with, as well as just in your own descriptions of things you're going to improvise. But this is designed more as giving you some guidance for that improvisation to make it easier. Special thanks to all of our patrons who help us make these videos, and I want to give a special shout out to Black Dragon Gaming. If you want to support our channel, you can head on over to patreon.com/rollforinitiative and check out the perks of being a patron. All right, back to the review. The second half of the book is dedicated to monsters. It starts out with a monster building tip, again, very similar to the encounter building tips, where some of these are things from the book, just written in slightly different ways, as well as some additional ideas there for you. There's a nice monster creation table that has 15 slots, so for all 15 monsters that you can have in the book, and it gives you just kind of some really basic info. And then it goes on to the 2-page spread for each monster design. One thing that I think you might potentially run into some issues with is there are a number of areas such as features and some of the actions that you only have a few lines to write things in. So if you have like a big boss monster that has a lot of different special actions or features, you might only be able to write in like the name and not a full description of what that ability does. Again, I think that's where the field notes lends itself much more as a reference rather than being able to use this to like fully replace having the rule books. That being said, it does provide a nice framework for if you want to homebrew your own monster. You have kind of all of the stuff that you will need to figure out and fill in. I do like that there's a nice big spot that you can draw or print and like glue in a visual reference. This space maybe could have been, I would have rather seen this space maybe a little bit smaller and provide a little bit more space for writing stats and features and abilities. Personal preference, maybe you like that. Or you can use that space to write all of that stuff in if you don't want to have a big picture. So where this gets into where I think it is very flexible is that you can not only use those sections to create your own homebrew monsters, but I think they're also a good place that if you have, okay, I'm going to have a bunch of kobolds in this campaign, or we're running through an area that has a bunch of harpies, or whatever it is, you might just copy over all the info in here so you don't have to lug around the monster manual. Or, for example, if you know, okay, I'm going to bring the monster manual, but there's one creature from Volo's guide that I want to use in this session, you can write that in. And again, it also provides you a nice, great thing to throw a monster at your party kind of last minute if you show up for a session and a couple people can't make it, but you still want to play a session. You can kind of maybe have a few ideas ready to go in this book as reference. That is my review of the Monster and Encounter Journal for 5th edition from Field Notes. If you've used this journal, I'd love to know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. And also, if you haven't used this journal, how do you think you would use this? Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because we make videos here every week all about tabletop RPGs and sometimes our other geeky interests. And I'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye! And also, teal is my favorite color. I almost managed to match it with my shirt. Almost.